The transport ship shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of the small colony world. Princess Zara of the Valdari Empire sat in her seat with perfect posture, her crystalline blue skin gleaming under the artificial lights. Her silver hair was pulled back in the traditional style of her people, and her violet eyes stared coldly at the viewport. This was her punishment. Marriage to a primitive human on a forgotten world at the edge of known space. The High Council had made their decision clear. Zara had spoken against the planned invasion of Earth, calling it unnecessary violence. Her words had been seen as treason against the Empire. Now she would spend her life among the very species she had defended, learning firsthand why they were considered inferior. "Princess, we are approaching the landing zone," announced the pilot, his voice respectful but distant. Even her own people now treated her differently after her fall from grace. Zara watched through the viewport as the settlement came into view. She had expected mud huts and primitive shelters. Instead, she saw organized buildings that seemed to blend with the landscape. Green spaces dotted the area between structures, and she could see movement that suggested a busy, working community. The ship landed with a soft thud on the prepared landing pad. Zara took a deep breath and stood, adjusting her formal robes one last time. Whatever happened next, she would face it with the dignity befitting a princess of the Valdari. The airlock opened with a hiss, and Zara stepped onto the surface of her new home. The air was clean and carried scents she did not recognize. Sweet flowers mixed with rich earth and something else that made her nose twitch with curiosity. A small group of humans waited to greet her. At their head stood a man with brown hair and kind eyes. He was tall for a human, though still shorter than Zara, and wore simple work clothes that were clean but clearly well used. This had to be Tom, the agricultural engineer she was meant to marry. Tom stepped forward and gave a slight bow. "Princess Zara, welcome to Haven Colony. I am Tom. I hope your journey was not too difficult." His voice was calm and respectful. Zara had expected demands or crude behavior. Instead, the human spoke to her as if she were an honored guest rather than a prisoner. "The journey was acceptable," she replied coolly, maintaining her distance. Tom nodded and gestured toward the settlement. "Would you like to see your quarters first, or perhaps a tour of the colony? The choice is yours." Again, he offered her options rather than commands. Zara found this strange but decided to observe more before making judgments. "Show me the settlement," she said. Tom smiled, a genuine expression that reached his eyes. "Of course. This way, please." As they walked, Tom began explaining the layout of Haven Colony. The humans had built their homes and work buildings to follow the natural curves of the land. Gardens and small farms were integrated throughout the settlement rather than separated from living areas. "We found that working with the environment rather than against it produces better results," Tom explained as they passed a series of terraced gardens growing on what should have been a steep, unusable hillside. Zara examined the terraces more closely. The engineering was simple but effective. Water flowed down through channels that fed each level, and the plants seemed to thrive in conditions that should have been challenging. "Your people lack advanced technology," Zara observed, not trying to hide her criticism. "That is true," Tom agreed without offense. "We make do with what we have and what we can build ourselves. Sometimes simple solutions work better than complex ones." They continued walking, and Zara saw more evidence of human adaptation. Solar collectors that tracked the sun automatically, built from basic materials but functioning efficiently. Wind generators that had been designed to work with the local weather patterns. Water collection systems that seemed almost artistic in their elegance. "The Valdari have technology that could accomplish these tasks with much less effort," Zara said, testing the human's reaction. "I am sure you do," Tom replied. "But we have learned to find satisfaction in solving problems ourselves. Each challenge we overcome makes us better prepared for the next one." Zara frowned. This was not the response she had expected. Where was the envy? The desperate pleading for advanced technology? The admission of human inferiority? They reached the center of the settlement, where a large building served as both meeting hall and dining area. Through open windows, Zara could hear voices and laughter. The sound was warm and welcoming, unlike the formal silence of Valdari court gatherings. "The evening meal will begin soon," Tom said. "Everyone in the colony eats together when possible. It helps build community." "Everyone?" Zara asked, surprised. "Do you not have social ranks? Classes?" "We have different jobs and responsibilities," Tom explained. "But we are all working toward the same goals. Everyone's contribution matters." This concept was alien to Zara. In Valdari society, strict hierarchy determined every aspect of life. The idea that a field worker might sit at the same table as a leader seemed impossible. Tom led her to a smaller building near the edge of the settlement. It was modest but well constructed, with large windows that looked out over the valley below. "These are your quarters," Tom said, opening the door for her. "I live in the building next door. You have complete privacy, and the space is yours to arrange as you wish." Zara stepped inside and looked around. The rooms were simple but comfortable. Furniture was made from local wood and designed for function rather than display. Fresh flowers sat in a simple vase on the main table, and clean linens covered the sleeping area. "This is where you expected me to live?" she asked, unable to hide her surprise. "Is something wrong with it?" Tom asked, genuine concern in his voice. Zara had expected a cage or a crude shelter. Instead, she found rooms that were clean, comfortable, and respectfully prepared. "It is adequate," she said finally. Tom nodded. "If you need anything or want to change something, please let me know. I want you to be comfortable here." "Why?" The question escaped before Zara could stop it. Tom looked puzzled. "Why what? Why do you care about my comfort? I was sent here as punishment. You were forced to accept this marriage arrangement. Why show me kindness?" Tom was quiet for a moment, considering her question. "Because kindness costs nothing and makes life better for everyone. You did not choose to come here any more than I chose this situation. But we are both here now. We can make the best of it or make each other miserable. I prefer the first option." Zara stared at him, trying to understand this human logic. In Valdari culture, forced marriages were about power and control. The superior party dominated the inferior one. There was no concept of making the best of things together. "You may rest now if you wish," Tom continued. "Or if you would like to join us for the evening meal, you are welcome. Some of the colonists are curious about Valdari culture, but no one will bother you if you prefer to be alone." "I will consider it," Zara replied, still trying to process this unexpected treatment. Tom nodded and moved toward the door. "I will be working in the greenhouses if you need anything. They are the long buildings on the north side of the settlement." After he left, Zara sat on the simple bed and tried to make sense of her situation. Everything about this place contradicted what she had been taught about humans. They were supposed to be primitive, violent, and crude. Instead, she found organization, innovation, and unexpected kindness. She rose and walked to the window, looking out over the settlement. Humans moved about their evening tasks with purpose and cooperation. Children played in open areas while adults worked nearby, keeping them safe without restricting their movement. The scene was peaceful and productive. A soft chime from outside indicated the evening meal was beginning. Zara hesitated, then decided she needed more information about these humans if she was going to understand her new situation. The dining hall was filled with voices when she entered. Conversation stopped for a moment as people noticed her, then resumed at a more subdued level. Zara felt the weight of curious stares but no hostility. Tom appeared at her side almost immediately. "Princess Zara, I am glad you decided to join us. Would you like me to introduce you to some of the colonists?" "That would be acceptable," she replied. Tom led her to a table where several humans of various ages were seated. "Everyone, this is Princess Zara of the Valdari Empire." "Princess, these are some of our community leaders. An older woman with gray hair smiled warmly. Welcome to Haven Colony, Princess. I am Dr. Beth, the colony's chief medical officer. I am Sam, said a middle-aged man with calloused hands. I oversee our manufacturing and repair operations. A younger woman with bright eyes spoke next. I am Lynn, our communications and education coordinator. Each introduction was made with respect but not fear. These humans treated her as an honored guest despite knowing she was there as punishment. Please, sit wherever you are comfortable, Dr. Beth said, gesturing to an empty chair. The meal that followed surprised Zara even more than the introductions. The food was simple but flavorful, made from ingredients grown in the colony. More importantly, the conversation was lively and inclusive. People discussed the day's work, shared ideas for improvements, and even told stories that made others laugh. Tom was telling us that you know about advanced agricultural techniques, Lynn said during a pause in conversation. We would love to learn from your experience. My experience? Zara asked, caught off guard. Well, yes, Sam added. The Valdari Empire has terraformed hundreds of worlds, right? You must have developed incredible methods for making plants grow in difficult conditions. Zara realized these humans genuinely wanted to learn from her. They were not afraid of her superior knowledge or resentful of her technological advantages. They saw her as a potential teacher rather than a threat. We do have certain techniques, she admitted carefully. That is wonderful, Dr. Beth said enthusiastically. We are always looking for ways to improve our food production. More efficient methods would help us support a larger population. You want to expand the colony? Zara asked. Eventually, Tom replied. Not for conquest or control, but to give more people a chance at a better life. There are many humans in overcrowded cities who would thrive in a place like this. This was another contradiction. Every Valdari expansion was about increasing imperial power and controlling resources. These humans talked about expansion as a way to help others. The meal continued with more surprises. When dishes needed to be cleared, everyone helped regardless of their position in the community. Dr. Beth worked alongside Sam and Lynn to clean tables and organize the kitchen. Even Tom, who was apparently one of the colony's leaders, carried dishes and wiped surfaces. In Valdari society, such tasks are performed by servants, Zara observed. We do not have servants here, Tom replied. We all contribute according to our abilities. Shared work builds community strength. After the meal, several colonists approached Zara with genuine curiosity about her culture. They asked respectful questions about Valdari technology, art, and customs. When she mentioned the crystal formations that powered their cities, young Lynn's eyes lit up with fascination rather than envy. That sounds beautiful, Lynn said. Do the crystals sing when the wind passes through them? They do produce harmonic frequencies, Zara replied, surprised by the human's poetic description of a purely functional system. I would love to hear that someday, Lynn said dreamily. It must be like having music built into your cities. Zara had never thought of crystal resonance as music before. The Valdari used it for power distribution and communication. But Lynn's description made her remember how the sounds had once seemed beautiful to her young ears, before she learned to think of them only in technical terms. As the evening wound down, Tom walked Zara back to her quarters. The settlement was quiet now, with soft lights glowing from windows and the distant sound of night insects beginning their chorus. Your people are not what I expected, Zara said as they reached her door. What did you expect? Tom asked. Zara considered her words carefully. Violence. Chaos. Primitive conditions and crude behavior. Tom nodded thoughtfully. We have our challenges and disagreements like any community. But we have learned that cooperation achieves more than conflict. The Valdari believe that superior beings must guide inferior ones, Zara said. Strength determines leadership. That is one way to organize society, Tom agreed. We prefer to think that everyone has something valuable to contribute. Strength comes from combining different abilities and perspectives. They reached her door, and Tom paused. Princess, I know this situation is difficult for both of us. You were forced to come here, and I was told to accept marriage to someone I had never met. But I hope we can find a way to make this work that respects both of our needs. Zara looked at this human who continued to surprise her. You speak of marriage as if it were a partnership. What else would it be? Tom asked, seeming genuinely confused. Among the Valdari, marriage is about dominance and submission. The superior partner controls the inferior one. Tom frowned. That sounds lonely for both people involved. Lonely. Zara had never considered her parents' marriage or any Valdari marriage in those terms, but Tom's word rang true. She had never seen real companionship between married Valdari, only formal arrangements based on status and power. I will need time to understand your ways, she said finally. Of course, Tom replied. Take all the time you need. There is no pressure from me or anyone else in the colony. We want you to feel at home here. After Tom left, Zara sat by her window looking out at the peaceful settlement. Everything she had been taught about humans was being challenged. They were not primitive savages living in chaos. They had created a thriving community based on cooperation and mutual respect. More troubling, they treated her better than many of her own people had, even before her disgrace. Tom spoke to her as an equal despite their forced arrangement. The colonists showed genuine interest in learning from her rather than trying to use her or diminish her status. As she prepared for sleep in her simple but comfortable quarters, Zara found herself wondering what other assumptions about humans might be wrong. If they were not the inferior beings she had been taught to expect, what did that mean for everything else she believed? The questions would have to wait for tomorrow. Tonight, for the first time in months, Princess Zara of the Valdari Empire fell asleep feeling safe and unexpectedly welcome in the most unlikely place. The next morning, Zara woke to sounds she had never heard before. Gentle music drifted through her window, mixed with voices calling cheerful greetings to each other. She looked outside and saw humans beginning their daily work with what appeared to be genuine enthusiasm rather than obligation. Tom knocked softly on her door just as she finished preparing herself for the day. Good morning, Princess, he said when she opened the door. I thought you might like to see our agricultural areas today, if you are interested. Zara had planned to remain distant and observant, but curiosity won over caution. Show me these farms of yours. They walked through the settlement as it came alive with morning activity. Children ran between buildings carrying messages for adults. Workers gathered in small groups to plan their daily tasks. Everyone seemed to have purpose and direction without harsh orders or strict supervision. How do you maintain order without enforcers? Zara asked. People work better when they understand why their tasks matter, Tom explained. We spend time helping everyone see how their work contributes to the whole community's success. They reached the agricultural zone, and Zara stopped in amazement. Terraced gardens climbed impossibly steep hillsides. Greenhouse structures used simple materials to create perfect growing conditions. Most surprising, vertical farms rose several stories high, producing abundant crops in minimal space. This should not work, Zara said, examining a vertical farming tower. The engineering is too simple. The materials are basic. Yet I can see the plants thriving. Tom smiled. We learned that complex does not always mean better. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most reliable one. He led her inside one of the towers. The structure used natural light supplemented by mirrors and simple solar collectors. Water flowed through gravity-fed channels that required no external power. Plants grew in carefully organized layers that maximized space while ensuring each level received adequate light and nutrients. We designed this system after studying how plants grow in forest environments, Tom explained. Nature already solved the problems we were trying to address. We just copied her methods. Zara walked through the tower, examining the details. Everything was efficient and elegant in its simplicity. The Valdari would have built this facility using advanced technology, automated systems, and complex controls. The human version accomplished the same goals with materials that could be repaired or replaced by anyone in the colony. Your method is more sustainable, she admitted. That was the goal, Tom agreed. We wanted systems that would work for generations without requiring resources we might not always have. They continued the tour, and Zara saw more examples of human innovation. Solar cookers that required no electricity. Water purification systems built from local materials. Workshop areas where colonists created tools and equipment from recycled components. Everything here seems designed to last, Zara observed. We build for the future, Tom said. Not just our future, but for the people who will come after us. This long-term thinking impressed Zara. Valdari planning focused on immediate advantages and quick expansion. The idea of building something primarily to benefit future generations was almost unknown in her culture. They stopped at a workshop where Sam was teaching a group of young people how to repair electronic components. The lesson was hands-on, with students actually taking apart and rebuilding devices under Sam's patient guidance. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied, Sam said when he noticed Zara watching. These young people will teach others, and our community becomes stronger. In Valdari society, technical knowledge is closely guarded, Zara said. Only certain classes are permitted to learn advanced skills. That seems wasteful, said one of the students, a girl named Hope. What if someone from a different class had natural talent for technical work? You would lose their contributions. The question was asked with genuine curiosity rather than challenge, but it made Zara think. How many talented Valdari were trapped in lower castes, unable to contribute their full potential to society? Tom led her to another area where Dr. Beth was working with several colonists to develop improved medical supplies. They were testing plant-based medicines and creating first-aid materials from local resources. We cannot rely on supply ships for critical needs, Dr. Beth explained. So we learn to create what we need from what we have available. Do you have much illness here? Zara asked. Less than we expected, Dr. Beth replied. Good nutrition, clean water, regular exercise, and strong social connections seem to prevent many health problems. Zara thought about the Valdari cities, where stress-related illnesses were common despite advanced medical technology. Perhaps there was something to be said for the human approach to wellness. As they walked back toward the settlement center, Zara noticed something she had missed before. People were smiling. Not the formal expressions required in Valdari court, but genuine happiness that reached their eyes and changed their entire demeanor. Your people seem content, she observed. We have meaningful work, strong relationships, and hope for the future, Tom said. Those things create contentment that no amount of luxury can match. That afternoon, Lynn approached Zara with an invitation that surprised her. We are having music and storytelling tonight, Lynn said. Would you like to join us? We would love to hear about Valdari culture, if you are willing to share. You want me to tell stories? Zara asked, uncertain. Only if you want to, Lynn assured her. We believe that sharing stories helps people understand each other better. That evening, Zara found herself sitting in a circle with dozens of colonists as they took turns sharing tales from their various backgrounds. The stories ranged from funny childhood memories to exciting adventures to meaningful life lessons. When her turn came, Zara hesitated. Then she found herself telling a story from her childhood about the crystal gardens of her home city. She described how young Valdari children would play among the singing crystals, making music by running their fingers along different formations. That sounds magical, Hope said when Zara finished. Do you miss it? I had forgotten how magical it seemed when I was young, Zara admitted. I learned to think of the crystals only as tools rather than sources of beauty. Maybe you can think of them as both, suggested Dr. Beth gently. After the stories, the colonists brought out simple instruments and began playing music together. The melodies were not complex or formally arranged, but they created a warm, inclusive atmosphere that drew everyone into participation. Tom appeared at Zara's side with a small wooden flute. "This belonged to the previous agricultural engineer," he said. "She taught me to play before she retired. Would you like to try?" Zara took the instrument hesitantly. She had been trained in formal Veldari musical techniques, but this simple flute required a different approach. Instead of complex compositions, the colonists were playing intuitive melodies that seemed to flow naturally from their emotions. She put the flute to her lips and began with a traditional Veldari tune. The formal structure sounded strange in this casual setting, so she began to modify it, making it softer and more flowing. Soon she was creating new music that blended her cultural background with the human style around her. The other musicians adjusted their playing to harmonize with her melody, creating something entirely new that belonged to neither culture but somehow included both. For the first time in her life, Zara experienced the joy of true musical collaboration. "That was beautiful," Lin said when the song ended. "You have a gift for melody." "I was taught that music must follow specific rules," Zara replied. "But this was more free and natural." "Both approaches have value," Tom said. "Structure gives music foundation, but freedom allows it to grow and change." As the evening continued, Zara found herself laughing at stories, joining in songs, and feeling genuinely relaxed for the first time in months. The formal stress of Veldari court life seemed like a distant memory. The next few days brought new discoveries. Zara began helping in the agricultural areas, sharing knowledge about mineral nutrition and soil enhancement that improved crop yields. In return, she learned human techniques for crop rotation and companion planting that created more resilient farming systems. Working alongside the colonists, she discovered the satisfaction of physical labor combined with mental challenge. Veldari princesses were not expected to work with their hands, but Zara found that direct contact with the soil and plants created a connection she had never experienced. "You seem different," Tom observed as they worked together to install a new irrigation system. "Different how?" Zara asked. "More relaxed. Less guarded. You smile more often." Zara realized he was right. The constant tension she had carried in Veldari society was melting away. Here, she could speak her mind without political consequences. She could pursue interests without worrying about class restrictions. She could simply be herself. "I think I am discovering who I am when I am not trying to be what others expect," she said. Tom nodded thoughtfully. "That is one of the gifts of starting over in a new place. You can choose which parts of your past to keep and which to leave behind." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alarm signal echoing across the settlement. Colonists immediately stopped their work and began moving toward emergency stations with practiced efficiency. "What is happening?" Zara asked. "Solar storm warning," Tom replied, his expression becoming serious. "A large one, based on the alarm pattern. We need to get everyone to the protected areas immediately." Zara felt her blood turn cold. Solar storms in this system were known to be particularly violent, capable of destroying both biological life and electronic systems. She had read reports about the phenomenon during her journey to the colony. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Maybe 3 hours before the main event hits," Tom said, consulting a portable communicator. "Less if it accelerates." They ran toward the settlement center, where colonists were already organizing evacuation procedures. Dr. Beth was coordinating medical preparations while Sam gathered critical equipment. Lynn was organizing communication with the underground shelters. "Tom," Sam called out, "we have a problem. Shelter 3's power systems failed during the last maintenance check. The backup generators cannot handle the full load for an extended period." "How many people need Shelter 3? Tom asked. 47, including most of our families with young children," Lynn replied, checking her lists. Zara listened to the discussion and realized the severity of the situation. Without proper shielding, the families in Shelter 3 would face lethal radiation exposure. The colony's simple technology could not solve this problem quickly enough. Wait, Zara said, her mind racing. I may be able to help. Everyone turned to look at her. Valdari ships use crystalline energy matrices for radiation shielding, she explained. The principles could be adapted to work with your power systems. Do you know how to build such a system? Dr. Beth asked. I understand the theory, Zara replied. But we would need specific materials and very precise assembly. What kind of materials? Sam asked. Zara thought quickly. Conductive metals arranged in geometric patterns. Focused energy sources. And crystalline components to create resonance fields. Sam's eyes lit up. We have metals in the workshop. The solar collectors could provide focused energy. But crystalline components? Zara looked around the group, then made a decision that surprised even her. My personal ornaments contain Valdari focus crystals. They could provide the resonance base we need. Without hesitation, she began removing the elaborate crystal jewelry that marked her royal status. Each piece was irreplaceable and worth more than most planets, but she handed them to Sam without regret. Are you certain? Tom asked quietly. These must have great personal value. They have cultural value, Zara corrected. But right now, they have practical value that matters more. The next 2 hours were the most intense of Zara's life. Working with Sam and a team of volunteers, she helped design and build an improvised shielding system that combined Valdari crystal technology with human engineering innovation. The work required precise coordination between multiple teams. Zara found herself naturally taking a leadership role, organizing efforts, and making critical decisions under extreme time pressure. The colonists followed her guidance without question, trusting her expertise while contributing their own skills to the solution. Crystal matrix is resonating properly, Sam reported as they completed the final connections. Power flow is stable, added one of the other engineers. Radiation shielding is showing optimal patterns, Zara confirmed, reading displays that showed the system was working exactly as designed. They finished with less than 20 minutes to spare before the solar storm arrived. As families rushed into the newly protected Shelter 3, Zara felt a satisfaction she had never experienced in all her years of royal privilege. You saved them, Tom said, standing beside her as they watched the last children disappear safely underground. We saved them, Zara corrected. Your people provided the skills and resources. I just contributed some knowledge and some pretty rocks. Tom laughed, a sound of relief and admiration. Those pretty rocks and that knowledge made all the difference. The storm hit with devastating force, turning the sky into a display of violent energy that would have been beautiful if it were not so dangerous. From the safety of the main shelter, colonists monitored the progress and waited for the radiation levels to drop. During the long hours underground, Zara found herself surrounded by grateful families whose children she had helped protect. Their thanks were sincere and heartfelt, but what touched her most was how naturally they included her in their community circle. Tell us more about the Crystal Cities, one child asked, settling against Zara's side as if she were a beloved aunt rather than an alien stranger. Zara found herself describing her home world through the child's wonder-filled questions, seeing familiar sights through new eyes that focused on beauty rather than politics and power. When the storm finally passed and they emerged to assess the damage, Zara was amazed by what she saw. The colonists immediately began working together to repair systems and help each other restore their homes. No one complained or blamed others for the inconvenience. Instead, they treated the recovery as another community project requiring everyone's contribution. This is how your people face every challenge, is it not? Zara asked Tom as they helped clear debris from the solar collector array. We have learned that challenges become opportunities when people work together, Tom replied. Difficult times often bring out the best in our community. Over the following days, Zara threw herself into the recovery efforts with enthusiasm that surprised everyone, including herself. She worked alongside colonists to rebuild damaged systems, incorporating improvements based on lessons learned from the storm. More importantly, she found genuine pleasure in the collaborative work. Each day brought new problems to solve and new ways to contribute her skills to the community good. The formal restrictions of her royal upbringing seemed like barriers she was happy to leave behind. One evening, as she and Tom worked late to complete repairs on a water purification system, Zara realized something had fundamentally changed in how she saw her situation. "Tom," she said, pausing in her work, "I need to tell you something." He looked up from the component he was installing. "What is it?" "When I first arrived here, I thought of this as exile and punishment. I believed I was trapped among primitive people in a backward place." Tom nodded, encouraging her to continue. "I was wrong about everything," Zara said. "Your people are not primitive. This place is not backward. And I am not trapped." "What do you mean?" Tom asked gently. "I mean that I choose to stay here. Not because I have to, but because I want to. This community has given me something I never had in all my years of royal privilege, the chance to be useful, to grow, and to find real purpose." Tom set down his tools and gave her his full attention. "Are you certain? Your empire might eventually allow you to return if you request it." "I am certain," Zara replied firmly. "The Valdari Empire taught me to seek power over others. This community has taught me to find strength through cooperation. I know which path leads to real happiness." Tom smiled, an expression of warmth and genuine affection that made Zara's heart beat faster. "Then I am very glad you choose to stay. The colony is better with you here. I am better with you here." That night, Zara composed a message to the Valdari High Council. Instead of a request for forgiveness or return, she wrote a detailed report about human society and the potential for peaceful cooperation between their species. She described the innovations she had learned, the social structures that created stability without oppression, and the benefits that both civilizations could gain through alliance rather than conquest. Most importantly, she wrote about the joy she had discovered in building something positive rather than maintaining power through dominance. She ended the message with a formal declaration that she chose to remain on the human colony world not as an exile, but as an ambassador working to build understanding between Valdari and human cultures. As she sent the message into space, Zara felt a profound sense of freedom. She was no longer Princess Zara of the Valdari Empire, defined by birth and restricted by tradition. She was simply Zara, a person who had found her place in a community that valued contribution over status. Tom found her standing outside her quarters, looking up at the stars where her message was traveling toward her former home. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. "Only that it took so long for me to understand what real pleasure means," she replied. "I thought it meant luxury and power and being served by others. But true pleasure comes from serving something greater than yourself." Tom stepped closer, and for the first time, the space between them felt warm rather than formal. "What happens now?" Zara turned to face him, seeing not the human she had been forced to marry, but the partner who had helped her discover who she really wanted to be. "Now we continue building something beautiful together," she said. "Both the colony and whatever this relationship between us might become." Tom reached for her hand, and she did not pull away. "I would like that very much." As they stood together under the peaceful stars, Zara realized she had found something more valuable than any throne or title, a home where she belonged and a future worth building. The punishment that was meant to break her spirit had instead freed her to become the person she was always meant to be.